War is a machine that feeds on bullets and blood, but also on fuel. In the case of long-duration operations, the constant and reliable supply of fuel is as important as any other strategic aspect. To give you an idea, the U.S. Army consumes around 270,000 barrels of fuel every day, without which many of its capacities would be completely cut off. But moving that precious and flammable commodity to war-torn zones is no easy task. It requires a special transportation and storage system involving an incredible flexible tank system that forever changed Uncle Sam's logistics. In today's video, we are going to learn how the United States Army manages to transport and store fuel in the most dangerous regions of the planet. First, we must point out that military machines don't use the same fuel as your car. Generally, a special blend known as JP8, or Jet Propellant 8, is used, which can power a variety of vehicles, from fighter jets to tanks. JP8 is a derivative of kerosene, which was developed as a substitute for JP4, which was highly flammable and volatile, leading to frequent accidents. JP8 began to be used in 1978, and it is expected to continue in use as main fuel for several more years, with an improved version known as JP8 plus 100. The question is, how is such a dangerous substance transported and stored? Due to the flammable nature of the liquid and the complications that many areas of operations present, the transport of fuel for military purposes is usually carried out by air, with tanks that are raised by means of a sling, that is, a rope with special hooks that can be placed on helicopters and other aircraft. The key point in this process are the flexible containers, a kind of giant fuel bladders that are built with extra resistant fibers that can support the weight of hundreds of liters of liquid. When filled, the bags take on the shape of a barrel, with two lids on both sides to maintain the structure and safely drain the contents. These bags come in different sizes, from barrel-like models to gigantic structures that occupy thousands of square meters. Later we will learn how these superstructures operate and what tactical advantages they provide to the U.S. Army. Smaller barrels can be placed in groups of up to 3 units, which are then sling-lifted by a utility helicopter. This is the best way to quickly transport fuel to remote points or emergency units. The advantage of using these ultra-resistant bags is that they significantly reduce the space needed to store them when they are out of use. In addition, since they are not rigid structures, they tend to have a longer useful life and are less likely to break due to a blow. In a solid barrel, an impact could lead to cracks and leaks. These special bags are built with resistant materials that prevent liquid loss and provide greater resistance to shocks. Each part of the sling has an identifying number, since a pre-established pattern must be followed to support the load correctly and avoid accidents in mid-flight. The biggest risk when transporting fuel barrels is having a weight imbalance, which would put the utility helicopter at serious risk. Once the parts are correctly positioned, the fuel load is attached to the main rope of the sling and the package is ready to be shipped. But there are times when the need for fuel is too high and a group of helicopters is not enough to supply that appetite. In these cases, the A.B.F.D.S, or Aerial Bulk Fuel Delivery System, comes into play. Using this method, it is possible to transport 34,000 liters of fuel in 3 identical tanks that are filled in the same way as small bags. They are the middle brother of these bladders, and are ideal for large-scale reloads to operational airbases that are located far from urban centers, so ground access is not an option. These tanks are also not solid, but instead take shape as they fill up their internal capacity. The fuel is taken to the base of departure in trucks that load the flexible structure using special pumps that prevent the entry of foreign materials or air, which would imply a serious risk. Once complete, the flexible tanks are loaded via special platforms onto a transport aircraft such as the C-17 Globemaster III, a long-haul heavy transport military aircraft that has spearheaded the United States in logistics for 3 decades. With those tanks, the gigantic plane transforms into a flying gas station. The Aerial Bulk Fuel Delivery System is not just limited to the Globemaster III, those same tanks can also be loaded inside a C-130 Hercules, and even on large trucks should circumstances permit ground transportation. Before we get on with the awesome storage system, let's talk a little bit about those fuel cargo bags. Being built with resistant materials, they are incredibly robust. For example, a mega bag with the capacity to store almost 800,000 liters of fuel weighs 1,800 kilograms when completely empty. The hands and muscles of dozens of soldiers are needed to spread it out and prepare it for charging. A bag of that capacity covers an area of almost 450 square meters. That equates to a lot of flammable material, so they have a pressure and temperature regulation system that keeps all aspects of that massive fuel storage at a safe level. These gigantic bags are usually called bulk fuel tanks and are of great importance when installing a general cargo point to which aircraft and vehicles operating in the region come. The installation of these structures begins with a well in the ground, which is then waterproofed and protected with special materials to prevent soil contamination and ensure the stability of the bulk fuel tank. With the necessary care, each of these fuel bladders can have a useful life of between 3 and 5 years. When the tank reaches the end of its usefulness, it is simply drained by special pumps and replaced with a new one. Through these structures, it is possible to build a temporary and safe fuel storage point in unstable regions where it is impossible to erect durable structures. These recharging points are strategically distributed and allow an incredible capacity for action in all regions of the planet. Of course, the United States Air Force also uses solid tanks that can be located underground or above ground level, depending on the security measures that the installation has. These solid tanks have a useful life of approximately 20 years and require constant inspections to ensure there are no liquid leaks or structural failures. The difference is that fuel bladders allow for incredible operational flexibility. In the space of a few weeks you can transform untamed territory into a fully operational storage and charging base, and it's all accomplished using a humble bag of synthetic materials. Sometimes, the solutions are easier than they seem. We have reached the end of this video. If you want to continue discovering amazing stories, we invite you to subscribe and activate notifications. For the moment, we say goodbye until the next installment of Military Aviation.